What makes a genius? They have the same brains as other people, they just use them differently. I'm Mike with List 25, and from brutal honesty to unusual medical conditions, here are 25 surprising traits that define genius. 25. Sudden Savant Syndrome. Savant syndrome is associated with people who are mentally gifted, but who also have issues with things like brain disorders. Sudden Savant Syndrome is when this phenomenon happens to a random person through a brain injury. You can get it through hitting your head or other things that affect your mental capacity, such as a stroke. For example, 19th century photographer Edward Mugaridge used to be a bookseller, until a road accident led him to colliding with a boulder. After that, everything was different. His personality changed dramatically, and he altered the spelling of his name. Then he decided to pick up a camera, leading to groundbreaking work in the fields of photography and motion pictures. Many regard him as a genius, and this talent might not have been unlocked without his shocking incident. 24. Talking to yourself. If you've ever felt awkward about talking out loud when you work, then don't worry. In fact, it could be a sign you're a genius. Talking to yourself can strengthen the connection between what you think and how you express it. It's believed that this trait improves your memory, helps you to solve problems, and deal with emotional factors such as stress. Albert Einstein and Marie Curie reportedly talked to themselves out loud, and, well, they did pretty well. Just make sure you're not doing it in the library, or you'll probably get thrown out. 23. Brutal honesty. Coming up with great ideas involves getting some clarity, so a lot of geniuses don't mess around when it comes to giving it to you straight. No beating around the bush here, it's honesty and authenticity all the way. This has led to accusations that geniuses are rude. However, the fact is, they're focusing on solving problems and often don't consider the feelings of those around them. If you've ever been burned by someone more intelligent than you, then it's important to remember geniuses can be toughest with themselves. There could also be social factors that made them turn out the way they did. Now, I'm not saying geniuses can't be unpleasant people. In fact, some of them were surprisingly petty. The sad truth is, brutal honesty and genius go hand in hand. 22. No set routine. I'm sure there are geniuses out there working 9-to-5 jobs, but they don't always like a set routine. They might be sitting at their desk tired because they sat up all night thinking of cool ideas, or they couldn't get to sleep due to them not being able to switch off their galaxy-sized brain. Interestingly, while big thinkers are highly organized, this doesn't necessarily mean they follow a typical workday. Many geniuses fulfill their potential in areas like academia and the creative arts, where a strict time frame isn't needed. Many also turn to entrepreneurship, becoming their own boss and avoiding scheduling issues because they set their own hours. 21. Intuition. Working on a hunch isn't usually the best course of action. Establishing the facts before you make a move is important, as we on this channel know all too well. Of course, geniuses don't play by the rules, meaning they use intuition as a key part of their abilities. Let's take a look at the old story of Archimedes, the ancient Greek mathematician who famously came up with his theory of displacement when stepping into a public bath. He noticed the water level rose in response to his body weight, and his intuition told him there was a connection. The heavier you are, the more likely you are to either float or sink, a game-changing discovery that became known as Archimedes' principle. If he hadn't thought that up, we wouldn't know about this fundamental fact of life. 20. Problem solving. How do geniuses approach problems? Each individual has a different viewpoint, but there are certain things we can use as a guide. For example, experts have noticed we focus more on the symptoms of a problem than the actual problem itself. We mere mortals get caught up with that, whereas a genius will identify the root cause and work from there, saving time and stress. Of course, it takes a genius to find a genius-level solution. However, we can all learn from things like identifying the real issue. If anything, it helps us address our problems and resolve them a whole lot faster. 19. Hyperthymesia. How much can you remember about your life? We all have memories of significant events, but it's different when you have hyperthymesia, or highly superior autobiographical memory. It's like having instant playback on years and years worth of stuff that happened to you. This super rare ability seems to relate to autobiographical memory only. In other words, you're good on details connected to yourself, but you might not pass a memory test for general information. We don't know much about what causes it. Theories include it being an inherited thing, a psychological condition, and also something that comes from changes in brain biology. Who knows? It could be a combination of all three. 18. Average IQ. Here's one you definitely didn't see coming. Unless you're a genius, of course. It turns out you don't need a high IQ to be intellectually gifted. Genius is actually defined by your outlook and how you solve problems. In the genius world, open-mindedness, analyzing things thoroughly, and having a system to explore possibilities are more important than grades and qualifications. A good example is physicist Richard Feynman. He's well known for his work in quantum physics, yet his IQ score in high school was 125, which is close to average. Meanwhile, Albert Einstein's score is thought to be around 160, much higher and more aligned with what we think of as a highly intelligent person. Having said that, there are intelligent people out there with much better scores than Einstein. 17. Abstract thinking. The word abstract is pretty alien to most people because it relates to imaginary stuff that, isn't real. A lot of us like our ideas to be solid and easy to understand, so no wonder geniuses enjoy thinking in an abstract way, beyond the reach of most of their fellow humans. Abstract thinking is something that can be used in everyday life, not just in a philosophy class or the artist's studio. If you play out hypothetical scenarios in your head, and doing this helps you resolve your problems, then hey, you might be a genius. Where does abstract thinking and reasoning come from? It's believed to be something that develops as we grow up, rather than an ability we're born with. 16. Sense of humor. A comedian can be defined as a comedy genius, but is that a serious thing? Are comedy people actual geniuses? Conan O'Brien shows us the answer to this is yes. For starters, he has an IQ of 160, putting him in the same group as Professor Stephen Hawking. How does that work? I mean, Hawking discovered his own form of radiation, and the other hosts a talk show and a podcast. They seem miles apart. However, it's worth looking at what they have in common, namely a well-developed sense of humor. Hawking was known for being a funny guy, while O'Brien makes a living out of it. Experts say some humorous people think quickly and come out with killer quips precisely because of genius-level cognitive abilities and emotional understanding. Something to think about the next time you hear Conan being silly on his podcast. 15. Thinking about thinking. Thinking about what you think is commonly called metacognition. What this means is you analyze and track what goes through your mind. You don't just think, you go a whole lot deeper with it, teaching yourself and improving as you absorb new information and use the info you've already got. Metacognition is associated with adults, but studies have revealed children are capable of using their brains this way also. Educators have been talking a lot about how metacognition can apply to the learning process. They find it helpful, but it's not a shortcut to academic excellence. Any budding genius might get a lot out of the education system, however, it's best they work hard and study their subject, just like everyone else, to seal the deal. 14. Cognitive empathy. Does a genius need to be cold and lacking in empathy? This is actually a myth about the nature of genius. In fact, cognitive empathy is recognized as a defining trait instead of an obstacle for aspiring Einsteins. Being highly empathetic and sensitive to the feelings of those around you is seen as a major positive by some. For example, a friend might be upset, and understanding how they feel is definitely a plus. Interestingly, cognitive empathy is different to emotional empathy, where you feel what the other person is feeling and understand their reaction. So, which is better? Having empathy or not having it? It's okay to have both. There are plenty of geniuses who rub people the wrong way by being insensitive and not showing empathy. That said, it's not an important trait to consider in the field of genius. 13. Non-conformity. Geniuses have a habit of challenging authority. The cleverer they are, the more rebellious they can be. Just as people of high intelligence can have difficulty sticking to a routine workday, so they find it challenging accepting the authority of others. This trait is both helpful and a drawback. When you're doubting the facts presented to you, say the presenter of a YouTube video, that's one thing. However, if your boss wants you to do something and you think they're wrong, then it could potentially cause a world of trouble. With genius comes confidence and the ability to argue your case. That can be impressive for an employer who would theoretically promote you, though be careful. It might lead you to losing that job altogether if you argue too much. 12. Cuss words. Hey, tone down the language over there. Or maybe you should just keep cussing. The mouth truth is that bad language could be the mark of a genius. Some experts suggest the more you cuss, the smarter you are. Contrary to the old idea that people who swear don't have good vocabulary skills, scientists believe people who turn the air blue show a high awareness of the English language. They have the results to prove it. In 2015, a study at Marist College in Poughkeepsie, New York revealed cuss word users were also fluent English speakers. Part of the study involved asking test subjects to name 2 sets of words beginning with a particular letter. There was a family-friendly set of words and an X-rated set. The feedback demonstrated that people with a wide vocabulary knew how to swear like a champ. Meanwhile, those who weren't great with words weren't great with swear words either. 11. Dual process theory. Reasoning, or thinking about stuff in an ordered and logical way, is used by geniuses to reach some remarkable conclusions. Famous 17th century philosopher René Descartes devised a so-called method of doubt which helped fellow thinkers draw conclusions in 4 stages based on mathematical principles. Several hundred years on from Descartes, what else have we discovered about the art of reasoning? Focus is now being placed on something called dual process theory. Various psychologists and other experts have noticed how we use 2 types of thinking when reasoning out a problem. There's type 1, the intuitive side, and type 2, the analytical side. Basically, one is fast and the other is slow, and we alternate between these. It's easy to describe great thinkers as either intuitive or deliberate in their thought patterns, but dual process theory shows the picture is more complex than we thought. Are you a genius? Or maybe you think you are. If you're so smart, why don't you tell us what we missed off this list of traits? Our comment section is open to geniuses and non-geniuses alike. 10. Geniuses are taller. Allegedly. This mind-boggling fact comes from the National Child Development Study Organization, who released their findings in 2024. The group focuses on tests that are done on children where their literacy and numeracy are assessed. These tests have been carried out for decades, and at the same time, the subject's height was recorded. This revealed the amazing truth that a connection exists between cognitive intelligence and how tall you are. You only need to check out a famous tall celebrity such as Gina Davis to see that height can equal serious brain power. However, there's a twist. University College London and King's College did their own analysis, showing a bizarre drop-off in recent times. So, it seems short people are finally getting a look in on the genius front. 9. Paradox tolerance. A paradox is when 2 contradictory things happen at the same time. It's usually a problem, but not for a genius. Having a so-called paradox mindset is regarded as an important trait for those who like thinking on a higher level. For example, you can run a business and take what's known as a ruthlessly caring approach, where you balance a ruthless attitude to projects with respect for your own colleagues and people you work with. Sounds odd, but I guess that's why geniuses can handle the concept better than others. Speaking of proper geniuses, there was a study completed in 1996 by psychiatrist Albert Rothenberg of Harvard. His findings revealed that many of the world's great thinkers were inspired by imagining paradoxical ideas. 8. Seeing dimensions. We see the world in 3D, often without thinking about what this means. There's a 2-dimensional world of books, paintings, plus other media, and we add another dimension when using our own eyes. So that's it. 3 dimensions, right? Nope. In fact, according to some theories, there could be as many as 10. Who's coming up with these theories? Well, you probably guessed it. Geniuses. Exploring the various dimensions is something a genius loves to do. The concept of a fourth dimension, as in time, was discussed way back in the 1700s, with thinkers such as Joseph-Louis Lagrange and Jean-Laurent d'Alembert laying the groundwork for the final idea. They were mathematicians who pushed the boundaries of what was out there. We can't see the fourth dimension, but it's often applied to ideas like space-time, a key part of Einstein's classic theory of relativity. 7. Analogy. Using analogies to think about ideas more clearly is another trait of genius. They can be super helpful, with analogies being described as a cognitive shortcut. Yes, even geniuses have shortcuts, which is reassuring. I'm going to tell you a story that'll blow your mind on the subject. Henry Ford is the genius who became king of the automobile, but where did he get the idea for his production line? The answer is a slaughterhouse. Incredibly, seeing animals in a gory situation inspired how he made his vehicles. A less horrifying story is that of Philos Farnsworth, the man who invented the electronic TV. He based his design partly on a plowed field. Old televisions worked by scanning images in lines, just as the neatly plowed field featured a nice set of clean lines. 6. Embracing constraint. A great scientist or philosopher thinks without limits. Having said that, limits and constraints are also seen as a genius trait. How does that work? Despite appearing to pump the brakes on genius, constraints can unlock unexpected possibilities. The power of constraint has been observed in everything from 8-bit game design to space travel. 8-bit games challenge designers to do something fresh and exciting with their restrictive old-school layout. Meanwhile, space agency NASA has gotten some amazing results from improvisation in the face of limitations. In 1970, the astronauts of the iconic Apollo 13 mission avoided a grim fate by using cardboard, plastic bags, and duct tape to make a special carbon dioxide filter for their lifeboat when things went wrong. Embracing constraint, whether for life or death situations or not, is a hallmark of genius. 5. Harnessing serendipity. Some accidents are happy accidents, and they become even happier accidents when they happen to people with genius minds. I'm talking about serendipity, those times when things come together in an unexpected way, usually in relation to good luck. Geniuses use serendipity to their advantage, but the relationship goes a little deeper than that. Believe it or not, there have been attempts to make serendipitous events happen on purpose. Google even considered creating a serendipity engine in 2010. I'm not sure how that would work, and maybe they didn't either because it never became a thing. 4. Cognitive friction. A genius doesn't take an issue at face value, but is thinking this way always a positive thing? Cognitive friction is where someone experiences unexpected developments when completing tasks. The internet is a hotbed of cognitive friction, telling you to click on a website icon for a certain reason, only to show you a bunch of stuff that you didn't anticipate. Let's say you're looking for a job online and you find a good opening. You click the apply button to enter your details, but suddenly you're on a whole other website. It makes what should be a straightforward task trickier and generates friction in your brain. This impacts on geniuses as well as regular surfers. Even if you aren't a genius, you share a trait that defines how they think. 3. Patience. Good things come to those who wait. A genius might spend years dreaming up the concept that'll make them world famous. World-changing ideas can also happen in an instant, but the consensus is that genius is generally a marathon, not a sprint. Patience is a key trait in working out the big issues. It's been identified as a sign of high cognitive ability, with these individuals showing greater levels of self-control when solving puzzles and answering questions. They take the same approach to life and are often happier as a result. A 2019 study highlighted the importance of patience and also risk aversion in determining someone's intelligence. So, if you're an extreme sports junkie and you can't wait for anything, chances are genius will give you a wide berth. 2. Solitude. Not all genius traits are healthy ones. As human beings, we are built to be sociable. Even the most isolated folks who enjoy their own company seek out companionship occasionally. The sad truth about geniuses is they feel cut off from the majority of the population. Solitude is a regular thing for them, which leads them to experience the same issues that other lonely people do. Any problems they have with their mental health might not be properly addressed because they can't find someone to relate to. Images of geniuses living celebrity-type lifestyles surrounded by adoring fans and having plenty of social networks are unfortunately false in a lot of cases. We can certainly admire Isaac Newton, who developed the laws of gravity, and Nikola Tesla, who pioneered experiments with electricity. Behind the scenes, however, they shunned social contact and spent long periods of time on their lonesome. 1. Failing. Einstein may have been a genius, but he goofed as much as he triumphed. Following his discovery of the theory of relativity, he spent years working on another project, the grand theory of everything. Now, if that sounds a little vague, you'll be interested to know Einstein never managed to get this idea off the ground. Not exactly a surprise, right? Letters reported on in 2006 revealed the inner workings of the genius's mind during his period, where he exposed his insecurities and laid bare his flaws. He may have been a whiz with science, but he probably overreached himself trying to explain the whole of reality. Bonus fact: Einstein inspired the look of Yoda from Star Wars. Like his human counterpart, the small green Jedi Master had similar views on messing up, saying, "The greatest teacher failure is." Einstein, meanwhile, is believed to have said, "Failure is success in progress." Whew! Alright. Well, my head hurts after talking about all this genius stuff, but do you want to learn more about the human brain and its shocking secrets? Well, we have a video ready for you to watch right here. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you soon for another list. See you guys.